let's move on to a movie that Zach will remember in 2 weeks, partially because we know he already saw it like 2 weeks ago. And that is Anora, the Palme d'Or winner this year. It finished third for the audience award at TIFF, directed by Sean Baker, who's Zach's boy. Zach gave it 4 stars. He reported last week that he gave it 4 stars.
Finally, Anora. Now I've been thinking all day about what to say about it, because you guys haven't seen it yet, and I really don't want to say a whole lot about it. So I'm gonna kind of be a little bit subtle with it, but I can't be subtle. 4 stars. It is phenomenal, start to finish. Now Sean Baker, okay. This guy, I think maybe I like him a little bit more than you guys. I don't know. All of his movies have been.
You haven't even seen all his movies.
I haven't seen all of his. It's true, but the ones I have seen have been great. They've all made my top 10 list, especially The Florida Project and Red Rocket. But this movie, this is like Sean Baker getting a budget, so it's a little bit higher end. And I like that he doesn't use it on bullshit actors like Robert Downey Jr. He uses it on cool set pieces and a more, I would say, labyrinthine sort of experiment with the story, which, again, I don't want to say anything about it, except to say Mikey Madison. Wow. I mean, the comparisons to Julieta Messina and Knights of Cabiria are like dead on. This movie is chock full of like cinematic references. There's quite a bit of like Jonathan Demme's Something Wild in it. It's famously been compared to Pretty Woman. Pretty Woman meets Uncut Gems. That's a great comparison. And that's all you need to say about it, because it is from start to finish just a trip, man. It is awesome. You guys need to see it. If this movie doesn't get like several both Best Supporting Actor nominations and Best Minor Character nominations at the Pinos, then I quit my day job, okay? Will it get nominated for a bunch of Oscars? Possibly. I still think it's too R-rated to win Best Picture. I don't see in this era of Oscar voters them giving it Best Picture. But you know what?
We just had a full frontal nudity movie win Best Picture.
That's true. That's true. But this is a different kind of full frontal nudity, okay? And Florence Pugh might have been able to play the stripper in this movie, but not as well as Mikey Madison. What I will say is we did not expect Oregon and Indiana to be undefeated. We did not expect Sean Baker Best Picture winners. So anything can happen, but go out and see it. Get into the libraries. Todd, the Seattle theater's, 25 miles away? You can do it. Get to the movie theater and watch this amazing movie from Neon, Palme d'Or winner. It's amazing. I can't wait for you guys to also give it at least 3.5 stars. You'll love it. It's a great movie.
So let's talk about this. We have this movie, and I can't remember, Zach, I think you described this as Pretty Woman meets Uncut Gems. Is that what you said?
Other people
have said that.
Not my own original.
Yeah, I like in the trailer how it says this makes Pretty Woman look like a Disney movie. And all those are perfectly true. So this follows Annie, or Anora, played by Mikey Madison. And she is an exotic dancer in New York City. And she meets Ivan, played by Mark Eidelstein, something, I don't know, who is a rich Russian, he's a rich Russian kid. Parents are wealthy. He's in America. He wanted a good time. He needed someone that spoke Russian. Annie's his girl, and they have so much fun that they end up getting married. You know, quick wedding in Vegas. Let's do this. Then it gets interesting, because then the family gets involved, finding out he got married, and they want to get it canceled and annulled because this isn't the plan, and he's supposed to be going back to Russia, but he doesn't want to go back to Russia. And that's when all the chaos ensues. This movie is so brilliant in so many ways. It really establishes these characters well. It really gets you like to fall in love with Annie. It gets you to really like see the charm in Ivan. It gets you, and then when all the chaos ensues, it really gets you to see some of the chaos and charm of all the characters. I mean, it gets almost slapsticky at times, but real all at the same time too. It's a blast. It's a blast of a movie. It flies by at 2 hours and 15 minutes, 2 hours and 19 minutes. I'm giving it 4 stars. I see what everyone loves in this movie. It is it might be, I mean, I haven't seen a lot of Sean Baker. I've seen Florida Project and I've seen Red Rocket. It's definitely the best of those 3 because it actually has like a fully fleshed out plot with a lot of characters that are so endearing, and it breaks your heart while you laugh, and it's wonderful. I don't know if I necessarily love the way it ends, and that's something, if we want to get into spoilers, we can talk about it. But I would have loved to see it play like the last 5 to 10 minutes a little differently. But it's not that the ending is bad. It's just I would have wanted to see it a little different. So 4 stars from me. We've got 2 4 stars. Todd, where are you at?
Okay, well, I was one of 3 people when I was watching this movie, but I will say the theater workers actually were excited about this when I ordered my ticket, and then the guy yells over to the other theater worker, "It's Anora week!" and he throws up his fist. I was like, yeah! I was like, but I'd never been to that theater. It was a Cinemark, Century Theater. So I think the movie is like unmistakably similar to Zola. Like, Zola is a movie about a stripper who falls in with some bad people and has a crazy experience that keeps escalating and gets super wild. Is it better than that? I don't know. Zola is like one of the best movies of that year, and this is probably one of the best movies of this year. I mean, it certainly goes further, and it's almost an hour longer than Zola, but it is really similar. I think Mark Edelstein is amazing in this. Like, he is such an unusual screen presence. He kind of was reminding me of like Benicio del Toro in The Usual Suspects. Like, and not just because he has broken English, but because his like physical commitment to the role, along with his diction and comedic timing, is just so different. I think he absolutely kills it, and he should be nominated for supporting actor. The movie feels lifelike. It's not as bare as Baker's other movies, but it still has the soul of his movies, and the cast is basically all unknown people. But it's definitely a bigger budget than what he usually works with, and it's like edited furiously. Like you said, it flies by, and it could. He could end up being like the Coen brothers, because where he gets 4 nominations for the same movie, because Sean Baker is the editor of this movie as well. Yuri Borisov is understated, and he's getting like supporting actor predictions from a lot of people, which is surprising, but I wouldn't say exactly undeserved. It's a very unusual movie or performance that would be getting Oscar buzz. But Mikey Madison is like the star of this. She's magnetic. She's like a force of nature, and her thick accent is like Marissa Tomei and My Cousin Vinny level of, like, I mean, it works so well. Her accent fails one time, and it's like in the first like 10 minutes, but after that she's like fully committed, and I think this is your best actress winner at the Oscars. And she's got another one of Tarantino's actresses that he discovered for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, like, and she's probably the best one of them. But I mean, the movie starts out really hot. Like, it's the first like 45 minutes are like pure ecstasy, and you could feel it that it's going to come crashing down hard, and it never quite does, which is something I was really surprised by, because the movie is a comedy, number one, and it's thrilling, but it keeps the party going when the stakes escalate, and like basically when the oddball group leaves the house, it's like just pure entertainment, and I haven't had this much fun watching a movie that was 100% in my wheelhouse since Uncut Gems. And the one thing that drew me back a little bit is I don't truly understand what Annie's motivations are at any point in the second half of the movie. But that could just be that I'm a guy. I don't know. But I really like all the supporting characters. It's the most memorable group of quirky supporting characters since 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. And the ending of the movie, I see what you're saying, Terry. Like, it ends in a way that's uneasy, the way like great indie movies do, but it prevents it from ending on a high point, because everything that happens before that is riding so high, and then it just sort of ends. It takes it down slightly from 4 stars, but it's basically like neck and neck with Challengers as like the high 3.5 star movie of the year.
Yeah, it wasn't, the ending didn't detract for me enough to pull it out of 4 star range for me, but yeah, I didn't necessarily hate the ending. What I just didn't like how it played it out. Like it could have played out the series of events a little differently and made it, I think made it a better ending. But yeah,
I actually think the ending is my favorite scene in the movie. I think the ending is absolutely tremendous. And if Mikey Madison wins an Oscar for it, that's not a scene that they can necessarily show at the Oscars, but that scene will be a major reason why, because that is a tremendous way to end that movie. Because up until that point, the movie has been a great love story and a great madcap adventure in the first act and the second act. But the third act is all about the emotional devastation that this character feels. And it also makes a statement about class and economics in America, basically. And, you know, I think there's a lot of different interpretations for the ending. I guess my interpretation is that Annie was truly in love with Yvonne, and she deeply cared about it. Todd said that he didn't know her motivations through the movie. I think her motivations are a little bit unclear at first, but as the night goes on, okay, into the morning, I think it's very clear that she loves him for more than just his money. And when you watch that scene, for example, on the airplane, when and now we're all in the spoilers, so just don't listen if you haven't seen it.
Spoiler alert!
But when they get on the plane, and basically he breaks the news to her about what his intentions are, that's a devastating moment. Well, I think one of the more devastating moments in any movie I've seen lately, because she was prepared to say, I will still love you and be with you, even if you have to break ties with your family, even if you have to give up your money. Because I think her biggest desire in life, whether she realized it or not, was to find love and happiness. And that's, I think, what that last scene is about, is maybe because she's been programmed because of her, work to offer herself in that way, maybe she can find a love rekindled with this other character, but it ultimately doesn't happen, and it's all just a disillusion. And that's what really the movie is about. It's about how love can make you do crazy things. I guess that's sort of the cliche, but you do it because it feels so good. And maybe you never get that feeling back ever again. And again, the best movies, I think, are able to make cliches feel genuine. And the movie is not necessarily the most original or inventive. We've seen stories like this happen before. Todd was saying, he knew that it was going to collapse at some point. I think everyone would know that going in the movie, but the way that it does it is fascinating. It's really funny. I mean, come on, when they're at that diner in the middle of the night, that's just hilarious stuff. When the Toros character is constantly getting interrupted during the baptisms, and then he goes around asking people for pictures. By the way, low key, I don't know if he's the movie maker of the movie, but Toros deserves some award at the Pinos this year, because really it's because of his incompetence that this whole shit happens. Like, had he been doing the job that he was paid to do, none of this shit would have happened. So he's really the culprit behind all of it. But yes, I'm in complete and total agreement. Now, I did say after our podcast last week that when I walked out of this movie, I actually was at 3.5 stars. I will confess. The reason I was at 3.5 stars was because I think it's too long. And I don't necessarily think that it's that the end goes too long. I think that it's just paced oddly. The home invasion scene is like 25 minutes long. We get it, okay? It's a cool scene. It's fun. It's not necessarily boring, but it feels a few beats too long. And so what my criticism comes at, it's sort of a weird criticism. It's not like I really dislike the movie for being that long. It makes me salivate and marinate a little bit at the idea of how much better the movie even would be if it was just maybe 15 minutes shorter. And this is an issue with a lot of Sean Baker movies. He does edit his own movies. Same sort of problem with the Florida Project and Red Rocket. But this is such a good movie that you just want to hang out with the characters, and it's not really that big of a deal. And it does sort of oscillate. Like, you get back in the story really, really quickly, even when there are times that I was maybe losing a little bit of interest. That last scene, though, clinched it for me, because I thought that was a beautifully rendered last scene to that movie that I never would have thought of. Kudos to Sean Baker for coming up with an ending like that.
I don't entirely agree with you how you read the Annie character, but I mean, I guess
you don't think she really loved him. I think. Well,
I'm not going to say she didn't. She wasn't. I wouldn't say that was her driving force, though. Like, I mean, it's clear that she wasn't, because when she first quit her job, they're all the girl, like she basically told her coworkers like, hey, yeah, I mean, I'm leaving because I'm gonna marry this guy. He's super rich, and they're like, "Oh wow, you really hit the jackpot. I wish I could find a guy like that." Basically, I wish I could find a guy that's super rich and I don't have to work it here anymore. That was her motivation, was the money. But then it wasn't sort of, but it also wasn't love. I don't know what it was. It was just like ego. I think is majority of what she was going, what she was. But I mean, I mean, she's a complicated character. It's not unlike like the worst person in the world in that way, where it's like you're not totally on her page, but you get that she's a complicated figure. But I don't get where she was entirely coming from.
I read it as somewhere in between, where did she love him? I don't know if she loved him. I think she really liked him. I think she thought he loved her. And I think that was the driving motivation, is she saw his love and thought, I can fix this because he loves me, and just let me remind him of that. And yeah, the scene on the plane, why it all devolves there is because that's when she realizes that's not what this is.
Well, it's, when he finally admits that that when everyone else was calling her, a prostitute, that was pretty much what he thought too.
I don't think you can separate those things, though, Todd. I think that she absolutely loved the fact that she could tell the other strippers that she was leaving, and she could. How about the embarrassment and humiliation of her having to go back into the strip club and then being told by that one stripper, "Yeah, it didn't last 2 weeks." I mean, I think that's all kind of part of the same thing. Like, it's not necessarily that it loves him, maybe, but the feeling of being in love is so intoxicating. It's obviously a great what's the word I'm looking for? It's an addictive. It's a stimulant. It's an aphrodisiac, right? It propels this character to like be a much happier and more just genuinely like lifted up person, and the movie, it sounds corny to say, but I think the movie captures what it's like being in love in a really sincere way, in spite of the fact that these characters are obviously movie characters. I mean, no one has this much money. No one's able to just fly to Las Vegas. I get it. But the movie is also, I think, kind of cynical about that toward the end of the movie. And it kind of shows that the actual realization of what happens when that love kind of comes crashing down. So I don't know. I guess I understand what you're saying. Is that like, did she love him per se? Was she in love with Yvonne? I think so, but I think more it was just the ecstatic feeling of being loved, kind of like what Terry was saying.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah. So he was a trick. They got drunk and got married in Vegas. Like, I mean, it's like they weren't gonna like be together forever. Like, they weren't in love. Like, that it was a convenience thing, and it was something that just kept escalating when it was very clear that he was paying her for 2 weeks or whatever.
Well, I think that's true from his perspective, but I think she absolutely loved him and had deep feelings for him, however misguided they were. Ultimately, that's the point of the movie.
I mean, potentially. I mean, but like I said, she's a complicated character, and that's why the movie is great. I don't know. Yeah, I was never fully on top of where she was coming from. So.
Yeah, well, and I think that's sort of that's. I think Sean Baker's like aware of that. He wants you to wonder whether she's in it for genuine feelings of love, or whether she's in it to just make a good payday at the end of it. I don't know. I thought that it was pretty hilarious. The fighting scene in the home invasion. I mean, that was some pretty epic choreography. Like, if she does win an Oscar, it's going to be for a great physical performance, a great performance with her accent and her ability to speak Russian, and the fact that she's basically in every scene of this movie. I don't know how or why Sean Baker found this actor, but she's like absolutely tremendous in the movie. And kudos. He's always finding really cool actors. You would think that maybe with a bigger budget he would do like bigger stars or something like that. But I love that these are relatively unknown people who just play off of their kind of character eccentricities really, really well. And I gotta say, I love all the Russian characters. Igor and Toros are tremendous in the movie, and I love the parents too. Particularly the mother, Galina. She's hilarious in the movie. And gosh, the scene in the courtroom is amazing. The scene in Las Vegas is hilarious. Like pretty much everything works in this movie. It's just a little too much. I just wish he had just taken little bits of it here and there out just to make it flow a little bit quicker, but not really a big problem.
Well, like I said, Mikey Madison's from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And if you look at that cast of actresses that's in that, every single one of them is famous now, and they weren't at the time. Like it's everyone from Sydney Sweeney to, I don't know, it was probably one of the first things Maya Hawke did. Margaret Qualley. They're all big and famous now. Mikey Madison might be the best actress of all of them, but it's amazing that Tarantino just cast this movie of unknowns, and they all, I mean, they were all tiny roles, but now they're all getting starring roles.
And at the time that it came out, the only Manson girl that you knew was Lena Dunham.
Well, Dakota Fanning, right?
Oh, and Dakota Fanning, yeah. But the two that, you know, that do the least now, pretty much. So
I would be really thrilled if this movie won Best Picture. I do think it will get nominated for several Oscars. There has never been a movie this upfront and explicit sexually that has ever come close to winning Best Picture. And I just think there are too many
Shape of Water.
The Shape of Water is like one or two scenes. Like the whole first 45 minutes of this movie has some really graphic sex in it, which is great. I mean, that's awesome. But I think it's going to turn off too many Oscar voters and their puritanical bullshit. But I think
we live in
one Best Picture.
I was going to say we live in a world where Hot Dog Fingers won Best Picture and had a conversation with butt plug fight scene and a conversation between two rocks and the magical.
This is a year where there's no consensus, and I think a movie that everyone is pretty much going to like, and it might have some detractors if you're looking at it morally or whatever. I don't know. I mean, I think it's enough to win Best Picture. I think it's definitely the favorite.
I wouldn't put it as a favorite, but I do think it will get nominated. And I would agree with Mikey Madison possibly as the favorite, and maybe even original screenplay. But I just think the Oscar voters there's still too many old-fashioned voters. There's too many voters who feel as though people are overdue. No one is overdue in this movie, so it's not going to be a legacy award situation for anybody. But it is a great movie, and it seems like Todd says only 3 people in theater. The theater I saw it in, there were a lot of people there, and obviously it's getting just tremendous reviews throughout. And Sean Baker is a great filmmaker, and if you are a Letterboxd person, if you're someone who follows movies, this is a filmmaker that is probably one of the 5 most exciting active filmmakers working in the United States today. And it's great to see him doing work that isn't just repeating his old themes. Like, this is a very different movie than Red Rocket or Florida Project. It's set in a very different sort of milieu. And the characters are just rich and fun and bold. And I will watch anything that guy puts out. He's amazing.
So if it wins for a screenplay and actress, how often does a movie win a screenplay and a lead acting or an acting award and doesn't win Best Picture? Like that's got to be super rare.